Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for November 2nd, 2023, the Pyramid of Deceit edition. We begin with that story from the New York Times, as prosecutors have made their closing arguments in the Sam Bankman-Fried criminal case and have claimed he built his FTX crypto exchange into a pyramid of deceit. Defense said he was simply a math nerd who had no intention to defraud. So if you followed the Daily Compliance News, you know his direct testimony, his cross-examined testimony was an unmitigated disaster. It's going to be interesting to see what the jury thinks. Next up, the first of 2 stories today from the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal. This one by David Smagala, and it is on the DOJ policy on M&A, which provides a safe harbor and encourages companies to take extra scrutiny of target companies' compliance programs. This is a clear outreach and analysis of the DOJ's program. Nothing surprising here, but the key is that you now are really incentivized to drill down into compliance, because you can get a safe harbor if you disclose to the DOJ within 6 months of closing the deal. And of course, you have to fully cooperate and remediate, but it's a presumption of a declination will be granted. So pretty important now for certainty around safe harbor, and companies really need to take a deep dive into their target's compliance program. Our second story from the Risk and Compliance Journal is by Mingy Sun, who reports that General Electric spinoff GE Healthcare Technologies said it reported potential foreign bribery violations of some of its operations in China. GE Healthcare found tender irregularities and other potential violations of the FCPA. The Chicago-based developer reported $719 million in revenue in the China region for the quarter ending September 30. So it could be a very expensive lesson learned by GE Healthcare Technologies. And our final story comes to us today from Bloomberg, which opines on why China's generals keep disappearing, as corruption in the PLA can't be stamped out as long as commanders remain beholden to political connoisseurs. So interesting analysis of why the generals in China continue to be disappeared and arrested. Nevertheless, an important lesson on the corruption of an authoritarian regime, even if it's a communist authoritarian regime. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.